Hi, it's Friday, April 10th, 2020. It's been a long week. In case you haven't had a chance to keep up to date with the ways immigration laws are affecting everyone, that's why we're here. I'm Michael Ruttle, immigration attorney, and here's the latest. Let's start with what's going on with our firm. So RADA Law, we are still open for business. We are still working remotely. In California, where we are based, there is still a statewide lockdown, stay-at-home order. You can only go to the office for essential services. As you can see, I'm at my office only doing essential tasks for certain clients, getting mail and doing financial things. But for the most part, all of our staff is working remotely. So you can still contact us at ruttleLaw.com or at the phone number listed on our website. We're still getting cases approved. Things are moving along, albeit slowly in light of COVID-19, and we're even adding new pins to the map. As you can see over my left shoulder, I have a map with several pins that shows all the places in the world where our clients are from. We've been able to add the UK, Sri Lanka, Philippines, Brazil, and Lithuania all to our map within just the last few weeks. So thank you to the individuals from those countries for allowing us to serve you. Now, let's talk about what the government's been up to the last week. So first off, the government's getting sued. AILA is the American Immigration Lawyers Association, of which I'm a member, nationwide association of immigration attorneys. They have filed a lawsuit against USCIS for delays or lack thereof in relation to COVID-19. Certain deadlines have been allowed or been given flexibility by the government and others have not, and that's one of the things they're fighting over in the lawsuit. Now, another thing that was announced was flexibility with I-9 verification. So if you own a business and you have employees, as you know, you have to verify that that individual is authorized to work legally in the U.S. And the way you do that is through a Form I-9. But if you have employees that have started working for you remotely, how do you verify their documentation remotely? Well, Department of Homeland Security has announced procedures and things that an employer can do to allow that. So check out the Department of Homeland Security announcements for that. If you are an employer and you were trying to apply for H-1B, as you know, this year the government implemented a new registration process where the employer essentially paid $10, created an online registration, and that put them in the lottery. Well, what the government found was that employers were creating a registration for one worker and attorneys were creating another registration for the same worker. Those duplicate registrations were getting denied because the government found that to be unfair. So if that was you, the government did not deny your case by mistake, they did it intentionally. We're also seeing delays in the citizenship front with the Form N-400. That is the form used for naturalization to go from permanent resident to U.S. citizen. And because of all these delays, there's about 400,000 pending applications that will not be approved in time for the November election. One of the many benefits of U.S. citizenship is that you're allowed to vote, but you can't vote unless you're a citizen, and you can't become a citizen unless your N-400 gets approved. So we're seeing delays on that front. However, the Department of State said that even though visa issuance and all visa services are pretty much suspended worldwide, they're still making exceptions for medical professionals. On the date of this video, we're still in the middle of a pandemic with COVID-19, so certain medical professionals can still get their visas approved depending on the case. Contact an immigration attorney today to see if you can qualify. Now, let's talk about trends that we're seeing, not just on the government side, but in cases in general, right? So we are seeing that because all in-person interviews have been canceled until at least May 3rd at this point, some cases we are seeing are getting approved without an interview. In other words, if you filed for a green card based on employment or marriage, the standard protocol requires you to attend an in-person interview at the end of your process. However, the government has the discretion to waive that interview. And what we are seeing is that certain employment-based green cards are getting the interview waived and the clients are getting a letter in the mail saying, hey, your case was approved. So if you have a case pending and you have a possible interview, you might get it approved without it. So check your mail. One thing we are seeing, though, on the downside with immigration, though, is we're seeing cases getting rejected in the mailroom. Now, it's very important to know that a rejection is different from a denial. When a case is rejected, it means something was wrong or off at the entry level, and they sent it back to you to correct it, and then you can resubmit it. Usually has to do with things like inappropriate filing fees, pages missing. But what we're seeing is that there's been an increase of rejections for erroneous reasons. Now, these people who work in the mailroom, they're human and they reject things wrong occasionally, but we're seeing it a lot more. So if you file something and it gets rejected, don't fret, just get it fixed. Hopefully you're not up against a deadline though. Another thing is that we've heard reports from lawyers telling us that clients are taking matters into their own hands. And what we mean by that is if they are in the US pursuant to an employer-sponsored work visa, there's been delays, and so sometimes a worker's visa is in jeopardy. So by taking matters into their own hands, some people are starting businesses, they're going back to their own country, they're not waiting around, they're doing things to not just sit around and wait for the government to get back to normal. So before you do anything drastic, it should be known that the choices you make can have long-term effects. So talk to an immigration attorney today to make sure you're making the right choice. We're still seeing denials and revocations due to COVID-19. So if you are an athlete, an artist, entertainer, something like that, and you had an itinerary lined up and those events were canceled, the government might do a public search and find out, hey, your events were canceled, we're going to deny your visa. So be wary of that. But on the bright side, approvals are still happening. Like I said, sometimes without an interview. So don't fret, we're going to get through this. Okay? Now, what can you do? So the government is going to reopen eventually at some point. We don't know exactly when. For now, they say it could be May 3rd, but it's very likely to get pushed back beyond that. But what can you do now? Act sooner rather than later. And what we mean by that is if you plan on filing for immigration benefits, get your documents ready now. Get your birth certificate, get your marriage certificate, get those things translated, because anything that is submitted to the government that is not in English must be accompanied by an English translation. So if you have certain documents that you're going to need for your case, get them ready now, so that way when the government opens its gates again, full blast, you're not going to be behind the curve. You're going to be ready to submit your documents. Talk to an immigration lawyer to find out how you can best be prepared. And last but not least, hopefully you found this video helpful. So if you want to stay up to date on the ways immigration laws affect everyone, like our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. Stay up to date on the ways immigration laws are affecting everyone. Until next week, I hope you have a good weekend. I'm attorney Michael Ruttle, and that's been The Latest.